James Walker stood at the massive window of the Galactic Council station, watching the swirling colors of the nebula outside. His weathered hands were clasped behind his back, and his reflection showed the strain of the last 6 months clearly on his face. The council chamber behind him buzzed with the usual diplomatic chatter, but today felt different. 200 years of human membership in the Galactic Council had led to this moment, and not a single alien species in that chamber seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. "Ambassador Walker, please return to your seat. The Council is ready to hear Earth's report," announced the chief speaker, a tall blue-skinned being who looked down at everyone from his elevated platform. Walker turned and walked back to his seat, each step measured and deliberate. The data crystal in his pocket felt heavy. It contained proof of what humanity had been mourning about for the past 3 years. The swarm was coming, and the Council was about to make its final mistake. "Honorable Council," Walker began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "Earth presents its final intelligence report on the Outer Rim situation." He inserted the crystal into the display terminal. "Our deep space monitoring stations have recorded 17 separate instances of swarm fleet movement in the past month alone." The chamber filled with holographic displays showing massive ship formations moving through the darkness of space. Each ship looked organic, almost like flying insects made of metal and shadow. "These vessels match all previous warning signs we provided," Walker continued. "Their movement patterns suggest an organized invasion force, not simple raiders or pirates as this council continues to insist." The chief speaker waved his hand dismissively. "Ambassador Walker, Earth's military paranoia is well documented. We have discussed this matter extensively. The Council's position remains unchanged." Walker felt his jaw tighten. Paranoia kept humanity alive during our early space age. Paranoia helped us survive first contact. And paranoia has helped us protect Council worlds 23 times in the past 2 centuries. Through unnecessarily aggressive methods, interrupted another Council member. "Earth's military solutions have always been excessive." Walker looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and optical sensors of each Council representative. Some shifted uncomfortably, while others stared back with obvious disdain. 2 centuries of providing the Council's primary military force, of protecting trade routes, of developing defensive technologies, and they still saw humans as violent primitives. "Very well," Walker said quietly. He pressed a button on his terminal, and a new document appeared on every screen in the chamber. "In that case, I am authorized to present Earth's formal notice of withdrawal from the Galactic Council." The chamber erupted in shocked voices and angry protests. The chief speaker's skin turned a deeper blue. "You cannot be serious. This is a violation of countless treaties." Walker stood, his voice cutting through the chaos. "All treaties include withdrawal clauses. Earth has fulfilled every requirement. We have provided 2 years of notice through official channels, which the Council ignored. We have documented every instance of the Council dismissing our military expertise. We have maintained our defensive obligations during the notice period. This is about more than just military matters," the chief speaker said. "Earth's economy is deeply integrated with Council space. You would damage thousands of trade relationships. Earth survived before the Council, and we will survive after it," Walker replied. "We would rather face economic hardship than watch our allies destroyed because of political pride." A quiet voice spoke from the far side of the chamber. "Earth is not alone in these concerns." The representative of the runners, wolf-like beings known for their speed and honor, stood. "We too have seen the signs. We too have been ignored." Another representative rose. The crystalline form of a bright one sparkled as they spoke. "Our sensor networks confirm Earth's data. We cannot ignore this threat." Walker felt a glimmer of hope. Not all species in the Council had forgotten the value of caution and preparation. Earth welcomes any species who wish to maintain their existing defensive agreements with us. Our withdrawal includes no hostility toward individual Council members. "This is outrageous," the chief speaker thundered. I call for an immediate vote to sanction Earth for this disruptive behavior." Walker gathered his materials and walked toward the chamber doors. At the threshold, he turned one last time. "Call your vote, Chief Speaker. Earth will not be here to see it. We have learned when to walk away from a fight we cannot win, and when to prepare for the fight that's coming." The doors closed behind him with a final, heavy thud. The massive screens in Earth's Central Command showed hundreds of ships moving in perfect formation. Fleet Admiral Mark Wilson watched as human vessels across Council space executed the most coordinated withdrawal in history. Each ship's engine trail left a blue streak against the darkness, like 1,000 shooting stars moving in reverse. "Status report," Wilson commanded, his eyes fixed on the main display. 97% of our forces have cleared Council space, sir," reported Captain Lisa Brown from her station. "The runner ships and Bright One vessels are matching our course. Their governments have officially announced their withdrawal from the Council as well." Wilson nodded. Earth had expected some allies to join them, but the speed of their support had surprised everyone. The runner's entire battle fleet, sleek, gray ships that looked like arrows, flew in perfect formation with Earth's vessels. The crystalline ships of the Bright Ones sparkled like diamonds against the void, their advanced sensors already scanning for threats. "Sir," Brown's voice carried a note of concern. "Council enforcement vessels are approaching the Proxima trade station. They're demanding our merchants remain for economic audit." Wilson's expression hardened. "Deploy the Fourth Fleet to Proxima. Remind the Council that our withdrawal agreement includes free passage for all Earth vessels and personnel." The response was immediate. Earth's ships, massive and battle-tested, took up defensive positions around the trade station. The Council vessels, unused to facing real military opposition, quickly backed away. In the Council chamber, emergency sessions had been running for 3 days straight. The Chief Speaker's blue skin had turned almost gray from exhaustion as he faced the economic advisors. "How bad is it?" he demanded. "Earth's withdrawal has triggered a 20% drop in Council trade volume," one advisor reported. "Their ships carried 40% of all military cargo. The runners provided 30% of our fast courier services, and the Bright Ones maintained 60% of our early morning networks. The combined withdrawal." The advisor's voice trailed off. "Will cripple us," the Chief Speaker finished. He turned to his military advisor. "What about forcing them to stay?" The military advisor, an experienced commander, laughed bitterly. "With what fleet? Earth's ships could cut through our enforcement vessels like paper. And now they have the runner's speed and the Bright One's sensor networks. We couldn't touch them if we wanted to." On the edges of Council space, the withdrawal continued. Earth's ships formed protective corridors for civilian vessels, merchants, and anyone else who chose to leave. The sight of human warships escorting refugee ships filled many Council species with dread. They remembered when those same ships had protected them. James Walker stood on his ship's bridge, watching the last group of Earth's diplomatic staff leave the Council station. "Any problems with their departure?" he asked the ship's captain. "No, sir," the captain replied. Though the Council tried to seize their diplomatic materials, the runner embassy staff created a distraction while our people boarded. Quite a sight. Never seen anyone outrun station security so easily. Walker smiled slightly. The runners had always understood humanity better than most Council species. They knew what it meant to have evolved as prey and risen to become strong. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "Message from the Bright Ones. Their long-range sensors have detected swarm movements exactly where we predicted. The Council's outer colonies are already going dark." Walker closed his eyes for a moment. "Send to all Earth forces and our allies. Maximum speed to safe space. The Council made their choice. We won't watch them die, but we won't die with them either." The Great Fleet moved faster now. Millions of souls carried in thousands of ships. They flew toward a new future, one where humanity and their true allies would build something stronger than the Council's empty politics. Behind them, The Council's mighty stations and gleaming worlds seemed smaller somehow, like monuments to pride that have forgotten their foundations. And in the darkness beyond, something waited, something that would teach them all the price of ignoring Earth's warnings. Admiral Mary Thompson stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Defender, watching the emergency broadcasts from Council space. The massive view screen showed scenes of destruction that made even veteran officers turn away. The swarm had arrived exactly as predicted, and they showed no mercy. Another distress call. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Frank Miller. Council colony on Delta 6. Population 40,000. The swarm has broken through their outer defenses. Thompson gripped the command rail tighter. Delta 6 was only a day's travel away. The colony had children, families, and no Council ships were close enough to help. Ma'am, Miller hesitated. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're begging for Earth's help. The bridge fell silent. Every officer remembered their orders. Earth had withdrawn. The Council's problems were no longer their concern. But Thompson hadn't spent 30 years defending the innocent to stop now. Plot a course to Delta 6, she ordered. Send word to any runner or Bright 1 ships in range. Tell them this is a volunteer mission only. Earth Command doesn't need to know until after. The Defender turned sharply, its engines flaring bright against the darkness. 2 runner ships immediately fell into formation, their superior speed allowing them to scout ahead. A Bright 1 vessel joined them, its sensors already mapping the swarm's positions. They arrived to find Delta 6 burning. The swarm ships, black and twisted things that looked like metal insects, swarmed around the colony's failing shields. Council defensive platforms, designed for show rather than war, fell one by one. Launch all fighters, Thompson commanded. Priority is civilian evacuation. Get our shuttles to the surface. Runners provide cover, Bright 1s jam their communications. Earth's military machinery, built from centuries of warfare and hardship, swung into action. Fighters swept through the swarm formations, their pilots' experience showing in every maneuver. The runner ships darted between larger enemies, drawing fire away from the evacuation zones. The Bright 1 vessel's electronic warfare turned the usually coordinated swarm into confused clusters. On the colony's surface, Earth's Marines moved through burning streets, directing civilians to the shuttles. Their armor, designed to withstand anything, proved its worth as swarm ground forces attacked. We've got 3,000 civilians loaded, reported the Marine commander. But the colony's main shelter is cut off. At least 10,000 people trapped. Thompson studied the tactical display. The swarm was learning, adapting to their tactics. Soon, they'd be overwhelmed. We're not leaving them. Prepare for close-orbit combat maneuvers. The Defender descended into the atmosphere, its massive bulk casting shadows over the colony. Point defense guns blazed, clearing a path to the shelter. Runner ships matched the maneuver, their speed letting them strike and vanish before the swarm could respond. Shelter shields are failing, called out Miller. 5 minutes until total collapse. Thompson opened a channel to all ships. This is what Earth's fleet was built for. Show them why the Council feared our strength. All ships, execute Battle Plan Thunder. What followed would be remembered in Council space for generations. Earth ships, designed for war rather than ceremony, demonstrated why humanity had survived countless conflicts. The Defender used its own hull to shield evacuating civilians. Runner ships created confusion in swarm formations with impossible maneuvers. The Bright 1 vessel's sensors found every weakness in the enemy's defense. Hours later, as the last shuttle docked safely, Thompson received the final count. 38,000 survivors rescued. Nearly every colonist saved. Message from Council Command, Admiral, Miller said quietly. They're demanding to know why we interfered in Council space. Thompson looked at the tactical display, where dots representing grateful survivors filled her ship's refugee quarters. She thought of the Council's pride, of their refusal to listen, of their anger even now. Tell them. She paused, watching a group of children wave from a viewport at the runner ship's flying escort. Tell them that Earth remembers what the Council forgot. Power means nothing without compassion. Strength means nothing without purpose. She turned to her crew, seeing the pride in their eyes. And tell them that next time, they shouldn't wait so long to call for help. Earth's soldiers don't need the Council's permission to save innocent lives. The fleet turned away from the burning colony, carrying its precious cargo of survivors to safety, leaving the Council to wonder what else they had lost when Earth walked away. Commander Robert Gray walked through the newly established Free Systems Alliance headquarters, carved into an asteroid in neutral space. The massive chamber before him buzzed with activity as humans worked alongside runners and bright ones, creating something unprecedented. "The defense grid is online," reported Technical Officer David West, his fingers moving across multiple holographic displays. "The Bright One's sensor technology combined with Earth's weapon systems creates coverage we never achieved in Council space." Gray nodded, watching as a runner officer sprinted past at incredible speed, carrying data crystals between stations. The former Council members had wasted their allies' natural abilities. The runners' incredible speed and reflexes made them perfect for rapid response teams. The Bright One's natural affinity for energy and light made them unmatched at sensor operations and communications. "Show me the latest tactical simulations," Gray ordered, moving to the central command table. The holographic display lit up, showing their combined fleet formations. Earth's heavy warships formed the core, with runner vessels darting through complex attack patterns around them. Bright One ships hung back, their advanced sensors guiding the fleet's strikes. "Sir," West said, excitement in his voice, the runners suggested using their ship speed to create confusion in enemy formations. "When we combine that with the Bright One's sensor jamming and our firepower, we hit harder than any fleet in known space." Gray finished. "Have the runners started training with our fighter pilots?" "Yes, sir. They're teaching our pilots their high-speed maneuvers. In return, we're teaching them Earth's combat tactics." The results are impressive. An alarm sounded, and the command center shifted to alert status. A runner officer appeared beside them, moving so fast she seemed to blur. "Commander," she reported, "our border sensors detected Council ships approaching Alliance space. They're pursuing a refugee convoy." Gray's expression hardened. Since Admiral Thompson's rescue mission at Delta 6, more colonies had asked for evacuation. The Council's response had been to try stopping them by force. "Launch the Quick Response Fleet," Gray ordered. "Standard rescue formation. Earth ships as shields. Runners run interference. Bright Ones blind their targeting systems." The Alliance fleet moved with practiced precision. In the 3 months since leaving Council space, they had turned their differences into strengths. The Council had wanted all species to work the same way. The Alliance celebrated what made each unique. Hours later, Gray stood in the refugee reception area, watching families from 6 different species find shelter. The Council ships had retreated the moment Earth's warships appeared, already learning to fear the Alliance's combined strength. "Commander," a Bright One approached, their crystalline form glowing softly. "Our long-range sensors confirm the swarm has taken 12 more Council worlds. Their defensive strategy is failing exactly as Earth predicted." Gray sighed. "They still think they can fight the swarm like a political problem. How many more will die before they understand?" "The Council forgets," said a runner officer, appearing silently beside them. "That strength comes in many forms. They wanted us all to be the same, to fight the same way, to think the same way. That's why we left," Gray replied. "Earth remembers what it means to stand alone, to find allies who understand, to build strength from difference, not sameness." The command center's lights dimmed briefly as a Bright One ship transmitted a massive data burst. More refugee ships were coming. More species were seeing the Council's weakness. More were remembering that Earth's aggressive military had protected them for centuries. "Send word to all Alliance forces," Gray commanded. "Double the border patrols. Expand the sensor net. The Council called us paranoid for building weapons in peacetime, called us wasteful for maintaining large fleets, called us primitive for training for war. He looked at the tactical display, where dozens of Alliance ships moved in perfect, practiced formation. Human determination, runner speed, and Bright One wisdom, all working as one. Now we'll show them why Earth's strength was never in our weapons, he continued. It was in knowing when to stand and fight, when to walk away, and when to build something better. The Alliance grew stronger each day, while the Council's mighty worlds fell one by one to the swarm. They had forgotten that true strength comes not from ruling allies, but from trusting them. Technical Officer Thomas Reed stared at his microscope in the Alliance research station, hardly believing what he saw. After weeks of studying swarm tissue samples recovered from battle debris, he'd found something remarkable. "Get me Commander Gray," he said to his lab computer. Priority 1. Minutes later, Gray's hologram appeared in the lab. "This better be important. Reed. The swarm just took 3 more Council worlds." "Sir, look at this." Reed transmitted his findings. "The swarm ships aren't just biomechanical. They're all connected, like a giant hive mind. But here's the key. They use light patterns to communicate between ships." A Bright One scientist floated forward, their crystalline body pulsing with interest. "Light patterns we can copy, or disrupt." Before anyone could respond, emergency alarms blared through the station. A runner communications officer appeared, moving so fast she left afterimages. "Commander, Council diplomatic vessel approaching. They're broadcasting surrender codes." Gray's hologram flickered as he received the data. "What do you mean, surrender codes?" The main screen showed a sleek Council diplomatic ship, once proud and gleaming, now scared by combat. Behind it, sensor readings showed the swarm devouring another Council world. "They're requesting immediate audience," the runner reported. "The chief speaker himself is aboard." Hours later, in the Alliance's main conference room, the chief speaker's blue skin had turned almost white with exhaustion. Gone was his proud stance and commanding voice. He looked broken. "The swarm has taken 60% of Council space," he reported quietly. "Our defenses are useless. Our fleets are scattered. He paused, swallowing his pride. "We need Earth's help. We need the Alliance." Gray sat at the conference table with Reed and representatives from every Alliance species. "You called us paranoid," he reminded the chief speaker. "Called us primitives obsessed with weapons and war." "We were wrong," the chief speaker admitted. "Completely wrong. Earth's military strength, the runner's speed, the Bright One's sensor technology. We should have listened, should have learned." Reed cleared his throat. "Sir," he addressed Gray, "the swarm is pushing deeper into populated space. With my discovery about their communication method, we might have a chance to stop them. But we'd need the Council's remaining resources." A runner commander spoke up, her voice quick but clear. "Many Council worlds still hold our people. Families, friends, we cannot abandon them. The Council must change," added a Bright One representative, their crystalline form pulsing with emotion. "No more dismissing different ways of thinking. No more forcing everyone to follow their rules." Gray studied the tactical displays showing the swarm's advance. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Earth had walked away from the Council's pride and politics, but not from its duty to protect life. "We'll help," Gray finally said, "but not for the Council. For the innocent people in harm's way. And there will be conditions." The chief speaker nodded quickly. "Anything. First, Earth's military doctrine becomes the standard for all combined forces. Second, the runners take charge of all rapid response operations. Third, the Bright Ones lead all sensor and communications development. And most importantly," Gray continued, "the Council admits publicly that their arrogance caused this disaster, that ignoring Earth's warnings led to this catastrophe." "Done," the chief speaker agreed immediately. "Whatever you want. Just help us save what's left." Reed stepped forward, displaying his findings. With Council resources and Alliance technology, we can disrupt the swarm's light-based communications, turn their hive mind against itself. Gray stood, sending orders through his neural link. Earth ships across Alliance space began powering up. Runner vessels prepared for high-speed strikes. Bright One sensor platforms activated their most powerful arrays. Tell all Alliance forces, Gray commanded. Operation Lightbreak begins in 6 hours. The Council finally learned its lesson about Earth's strength. He turned to the chief speaker. You wanted us to be weak like you. Instead, you'll learn to be strong like us. Every species contributing what makes them unique. Fighting together, not because we're forced to, but because we choose to. Outside the station, Alliance ships moved into formation, preparing to save those who had once scorned them. Earth's strength had never left the galaxy. It had just found better allies to share it with. The combined fleet of Alliance and Council ships filled space with light and power. Earth's massive battleships formed the core, their weapon systems glowing hot. Runner vessels streaked between them like silver arrows, while Bright One ships pulsed with energy that would disrupt the swarm's communications. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of the flagship Defender, watching the final preparations. Status report. Reed's disruption system is online, reported Captain Miller. Bright One ships are synchronized. Runner squadrons report ready for high-speed attack runs. The tactical display showed the swarm approaching, a vast dark cloud of biomechanical ships that had terrified the Council into submission. But now they faced something different. Something united. All ships, this is Admiral Thompson. The swarm thinks they face the same divided galaxy they've been consuming. Show them what real strength looks like. Execute Operation Lightbreak. The battle began with a flash that lit up space itself. Bright One vessels released carefully tuned energy pulses, matching the exact frequencies the swarm used to communicate. The enemy fleet's perfect formation suddenly shattered as their hive mind became confused. Runner squadrons, you have your targets, Thompson commanded. Show them your speed. The runner ships accelerated to impossible velocities, their advanced pilots pushing the limits of physics. They struck the confused swarm ships with precision, their weapons finding weak points that the Bright One's sensors had identified. Earth's heavy warships moved forward, their guns blazing. Decades of military experience showed in every shot, every maneuver. The Council ships, now following Earth's battle doctrine, supported the attack exactly as trained. Swarm ships are turning on each other, Miller reported excitedly. Reed's system is working. They can't tell friend from foe. Thompson allowed herself a small smile. Launch our fighters. Let's show them why Earth's combat pilots are feared across the galaxy. Squadrons of Earth fighters swept through the chaos, led by runner pilots who had taught them new ways to fly. They struck with impossible precision, guided by Bright One sensor data that showed exactly where to hit. The swarm, for the first time, began to retreat. They're falling back to their staging area, Miller reported. Council long-range sensors show confusion spreading through their entire fleet. All ships press the advantage, Thompson ordered. The swarm learns from every battle. We end this now. The combined fleet pursued, each species contributing their unique strengths. Runner ships herded the enemy into killing zones. Bright One vessels kept their communications scrambled. Earth's warships delivered the killing blows. Hours later, Thompson stood in the Alliance Command Center, reviewing the battle results with Council and Alliance leaders. The swarm has been pushed back beyond the original border worlds, she reported. Reed's disruption system means they can't coordinate large-scale attacks anymore. The threat is contained. The chief speaker, still humbled by recent events, spoke quietly. The Council acknowledges its debt to Earth and the Alliance. We have prepared a formal statement admitting our errors as agreed. It's not about admissions, Thompson replied. It's about learning. Earth walked away because the Council refused to learn from others, to adapt, to grow. A runner commander appeared, moving with characteristic speed. The combined fleet works better than any pure Council force ever did. Different species, different strengths, all working together. The Council's uniformity is broken. Added a bright one representative, their crystalline form glowing softly. Perhaps now true cooperation can begin. Thompson looked at the tactical display, where Alliance and Council ships now flew together in mixed formations. Earth had taught them all that strength came in many forms. The swarm isn't defeated, she reminded them. Just contained. We'll need to maintain this alliance. Train together. Learn from each other. Under Earth's military leadership, the chief speaker added quickly, "We've learned that lesson well." Thompson smiled slightly. Under combined leadership, Earth's experience, runner speed, Bright One wisdom, and whatever other species join us. That's what the Council never understood. True strength isn't about making everyone the same. Outside the command center viewport, ships from a dozen species flew patrol patterns together. The Council's perfect uniformity had shattered, replaced by something stronger, something that celebrated difference instead of fearing it. Earth had walked away from the Council's weakness, and in doing so, had taught the galaxy what real strength looked like. Ambassador Anna Lee walked through the newly constructed Alliance Command Center on Earth's moon, a building that symbolized everything that had changed in the past year. Council, Alliance, and independent species representatives worked side by side, their differences now seen as strengths rather than problems. The latest reports from the containment zone, Ambassador, said Officer Peter Williams, handing her a datapad. The swarm remains inside the quantum barrier. Bright One sensors confirm they're still unable to coordinate their hive mind. Lee nodded, watching a group of runner scouts teaching human pilots their high-speed maneuvering techniques in a nearby simulator room. Through another window, Bright One scientists worked with Earth researchers, studying captured swarm technology. "How are the new defense arrangements working?" she asked, moving toward the main control room. "Better than expected," Williams replied. "Mixed crews on all patrol ships now. Earth's military experience, runner reflexes, and Bright One sensor skills complement each other perfectly. Even former Council species are adopting our combined training methods." The main control room displayed a huge map of known space. The old Council borders were gone, replaced by new trade routes and patrol zones. Ships from dozens of species moved along these routes, working together in ways the Council had never imagined possible. "Message from the new Galactic Assembly," a communications officer called out. "They've ratified the final defense treaties. All species will maintain their unique military traditions while following Earth's combined forces doctrine." Lee smiled slightly. The Assembly had replaced the old Council, built on principles of cooperation rather than control. Earth's withdrawal had broken the old order, but something better had grown in its place. "Show me the swarm containment zone," she requested. The display shifted, showing the massive quantum barrier that kept the swarm contained. Earth ships patrolled alongside vessels from every species, all working together to guard against future threats. Research teams report progress on understanding swarm biology, Williams added. The Bright Ones think they might be able to communicate with individual swarm units, maybe even help them break free from the hive mind. A runner diplomat appeared, moving with their species' characteristic speed. "Ambassador, the Trade Federation reports all new routes are secure. Mixed patrol crews have eliminated piracy in 3 more sectors." Lee walked to the observation deck, looking out at Earth below. The planet had changed too. Cities now included architecture from a dozen species, the strengths of many cultures combined into something greater than the sum of its parts. "To think," she said quietly, "the Council once called us primitive for maintaining our military strength, called the runners simple for valuing speed, called the Bright Ones wasteful for focusing on sensors and science." "They learned," Williams replied. "After Earth walked away, after the swarm came, they'd finally understood. Strength isn't about forcing everyone to be the same. It's about bringing different strengths together." The display showed new ships under construction, designs that combined Earth's durability, runner speed, and Bright One technology. The former Council species had contributed their own innovations, creating vessels unlike anything that had come before. The Assembly Education Exchange Program is expanding, reported in aid. More species want to learn from each other now. Military training, science, culture, everything is being shared. Lee nodded, remembering the old council chambers where species had been forced to conform. The new assembly hall was different, built to accommodate every kind of life form, celebrating their unique qualities instead of suppressing them. Earth walked away from the council, she said, but we never walked away from our responsibility to protect others. We just needed allies who understood that strength comes in many forms. Outside, a flight of Earth fighters practiced formation flying with runner scouts, their combined maneuvers showing impossible precision. Bright One sensor ships guided them, their crystalline forms glowing with transmitted data. The galaxy had learned what Earth had always known. True strength comes from unity through diversity, not uniformity through control. The Council had fallen because it feared difference. The Alliance had succeeded because it embraced it. Send word to all commands, Lee ordered. The new era isn't about one species leading the others. It's about all of us leading together, each contributing what makes us unique. Earth had walked away from the Council and taken its strength with it. But in doing so, it had taught the galaxy how to be truly strong.